order, and we'll stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do you have a phone with the buzzer? Please turn it off. And we'll first look to the minutes and seek approval.
I've got a couple of
Please.
comments and corrections. As I discussed with the city clerk already, on page 2, subparagraph 2 of the basis for the application, I think the audio grab misstated the first sentence of the text, so I think the clerk is going to take care of that. It doesn't make sense. A variance
Right.
could not be due. And then on page 3 and page 4, the basis for the motion, the numbers 1 through 8, I think ought to all be consistent with the bases of the ordinance section. And again, the audio grab and transcription, I don't think accurately corrected it, so the clerk is going to take care of that as well. So I suggest those amendments to the proposed minutes.
Is there any discussion? Now we'll take that as a friendly amendment. Those in favor of the minutes as corrected, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes as amended carry. Thank you. Thanks for the corrections. And next we'll turn to consideration of the property owner at 246 Barden Road for a variance to allow a driveway gate at the main entrance on Barden. Eric.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the zoning board. My name is Eric Peach. I'm with Giffords Webster, the city's planning consultant. Our first item for consideration is located at 246 Barden Road, and this is for a proposed driveway gate. So the subject site is located on the west side of Barden Road, north of Guilford, and southeast of Vaughan Road in the A1 zoning district. So it's the A1 district standards that apply to the development of the parcel. This is just an aerial showing the surrounding areas. If we need to, we can always come back as a reference point and use the aerial, more zoomed in version showing the existing conditions on the site. We're going to be focusing our attention mainly in the front yard in close proximity to the street. So looking at the yard determination graphic, of course the front yard's highlighted in green, everything that's in front of the house. The two side yards on the north and south sides, and then in the rear yard is the area that's highlighted in orange. And again, it's this portion here that we're going to be looking at with the proposed driveway gate. And as we look at the application and the review of the proposed items, we create an ordinance standards table to get a sense that everything is in compliance with the ordinance, except that in this case, obviously, we are considering a driveway gate, which is not permitted in the city of Bloomfield Hills, except by Planning Commission's consideration when the property is located along Long Lake Road, Quarton Road, and Lasser Road. So if it's a street that's not on one of, or a parcel that's not on one of those streets, then the ordinance does not allow for driveway gates. So in this case, we're on Barden Road, and so that results in an application that requires approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals. And so the applicant is here. So when it gets to that point, they can answer any questions. But we did go through the application with the applicant to explain that this type of proposal is not permitted within the city. So as we go through the dimensional review, we find that here's Barden Road here. This is the edge of the pavement. The property line is this bolded line here. So what we want to do when analyzing where a new gate would go is that there's a dimension or a depth that would satisfy or make it so that a vehicle wouldn't overhang into the Barden Road and obstruct any passing traffic. So that dimension is approximately 42 feet 10 inches. From the property line, it's approximately 21 feet 2 inches. On the property itself is required a turnaround. So if the gate is ever closed, say for delivery vehicles and the like, that a vehicle can turn around adequately within this space here so as to not back out onto Barden Road for a safety concern. So typically where driveway gates are permissible with Planning Commission approval, this would be a standard that's required as part of the overall proposed development. So moving along, we looked at some vehicle turning dimension standards. So this is just a graphic that, if there's any questions on it, our city engineer's here that may be able to discuss the point turnarounds for just standard vehicles that are using the turnaround there. Otherwise, we find that it meets the intent and standards of the ordinance, dimensionally speaking. So when we first received the application, we sent it back to the applicant. This is the initial proposal, where there are two driveway columns, which are permitted by the ordinance. It's when a gate is proposed between the two that the ordinance does not allow for that. The proposed pillars meet the standard of the ordinance. Up to 5 feet is what is allowed, and that includes any decorative feature that's on top of the column or pier. So in this case, these do meet the ordinance requirements, the columns. There's also a wing wall that's attached to the columns on either side of the gate. And so those, if proposed, would require approval from the Planning Commission. So with the first review of everything, we sent it back to the applicant to explain that the maximum height of the pillars is 5 feet, including any decorative features. So they removed the decorative feature and extended the height up to 5 foot maximum. So if approved, these columns would not be allowed to be any higher than what's proposed at 5 feet here. And then in addition to that, you can see the major difference is the removal of the wing wall. That's what allowed for this proposal to not have to go to the Planning Commission for them to consider approval of that. And in place of that, they are proposing a 5 foot high evergreen hedge on either side to kind of act as a green wall. And so I just want to draw your attention to the first page of our review letter. It states that in the general information section that there's an attached wall. That was the previous version, and it was just not corrected. But it should state that it's adjacent evergreen hedge or natural walls, just for full transparency, that it's the evergreen hedge that's proposed in place of the 2 foot 6 inch high wall that was initially proposed. And then there's ordinance standards that require a separation between the two columns for the gate, and they have that proposed at 16 feet 6 inches, which also meets the ordinance standards. And then this is just a side-by-side comparison showing, looking down upon the columns you see here with the gate between the driveway, and then the two hedge rows here with some seasonal landscape planters in front to enhance the landscaping. And again, the setback was, what did I say, 40 some feet? So if you can just envision where the gate would be set back on the existing driveway here on the two columns, which again, if it wasn't for the gate, what's being proposed would be permissible within the ordinance. So what's before you is a proposed driveway gate. And again, as I mentioned, the applicant is here to discuss with you kind of the underlying reasons as to why that's being proposed. So that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is that the gravel turnaround on the right in the foreground?
Currently, there is no turnaround. Are you on this
I'm
image?
sorry.
On this image, is that what you're referring
Right.
to? Yeah, this is an existing image from Google Street View, and so there is no turnaround shown in this picture at this moment. But it would be in this general area here.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Property owner here.
This is the current drive right here. Can you go back to the proposed? All right, so
Just
what's that?
this is also existing. So this is from the applicant. The applicant provided these photos from a few months ago, and then just taking a snapshot of the Google Street image.
So I'm confused. Is that the same image as the two prior,
Yes.
that right there?
The,
is-
yes, the
so
intention
trees
of,
were cut down, that's opened up area from the Google image? from that?
I'm not entirely sure when the Google image was taken. You can elaborate
Please
on that.
identify yourself, and then we'd love your comments.
Sure. Hi, my name's Steve Nopar. I'm the property owner. I'm here along with my wife, John. You mind if I come up? Is that okay?
Please.
Or,
Yeah.
Eric, are you
Also,
done with the
is that-
presentation?
Yes, yeah,
is it possible, I wanted to go back to the yard map that you had.
yes.
Okay, that's actually good. So, good afternoon. My name's Steve Nofar. I'm here, like I said, with my wife. I actually have my two little kids from St. Hugo here, and then I also have my landscape designer, Jacob Mansour here. I put this up, I don't know if you can see the mouse, but I put this image back up because I thought this was really great to kind of like describe the property. We bought the house, we remodeled it. One of the pictures that, let's just see. So this is the house as kind of remodeled, and there was a lot of vegetation that was removed. This, believe it or not, is year 2020. So this is the house before we bought it. This is probably some Google Earth image, but the house obviously doesn't look like that now because we spent a lot of money remodeling the house. But I wanted to go back to this picture here. This is important because this is part of the reason why we're asking for kind of like, you know, permission to put the gate, is that we have a very large front yard courtyard. And the courtyard is approximately 4,000 square feet of brick pavers. There was a courtyard there, but it was in very bad condition, so we redid it. And what we've discovered is that because we have such a large courtyard, we have uninvited vehicles turning around in our driveway. And the problem that causes is I have young kids that we can't let play freely in the front yard because people come, especially construction trucks, Templeton vehicles, we don't even use Templeton, turning around in our driveway. And because of that, we're asking for the gate so that we can have our kids actually use our property. That's the main reason for the request. There's no other driveway on Barden that has such a big turnaround area. In the front yard, a lot of what's in green is the original natural vegetation that has never really been landscaped. There's a lot of trees in the front yard. I'd be happy to answer any other questions, but I wanted to give you a little context as to the request.
Can you go back to the Google or map image?
Sorry, let me see if I can go back. This one?
Yeah. Yeah, with all the foliage that you cut down, nobody can see your sports court. Now that you've cut everything down, it's a lot easier to see, that's for sure.
So some of these trees, you know, you can't really see it. If you don't mind, I'm just going to walk to the screen.
Sure.
All right. So a lot of these trees that were here that you're saying that we removed or cut down, they were either diseased or knocked down by storm.
Okay.
So we didn't have a choice. If you drive along Barden, you'll see that most of the vegetation is still there. But some things, like if I have a branch hanging, I have to take it down so that nobody gets hurt. So what we'd like to do is completely re-landscape this, which is going to cost a lot of money in order to redo it. But we already put in brand new sprinklers, brand new lawn. We're going to rip up some of the lawn so that we could beautify this area and really have it kind of like give it some curb appeal from the street. So all the things that I'm requesting are essentially asking permission to spend more money on my house.
This is a photo from
This is
2020?
2020. This is essentially right before we
And
did
is
the
there
remodel.
gravel on the property now?
Is there gravel?
Gravel.
So I'm going to walk back to show you. So what we did as in anticipation of getting the gate over here, we did put down, we created a placeholder for the turnaround. And that placeholder is gravel on the ground right here. But it's just a placeholder. We would have to redo it once we get permission.
Is that showing in any of the
No, it
photos?
doesn't show
Okay.
right now, no. So essentially, that's correct. The turnaround would be over here, and we would landscape it so a vehicle can turn and then back out.
How often do you have incidents where people are in what used to be your courtyard?
Yeah, so great question. So Only because we just paid attention to it within the last year and a half. I have 9 recorded incidences in a year and a half.
With the foliage cut down and your driveway being so long, do people mistake that as a road, perhaps?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's a house there, right?
No, well, agreed, but you don't know what their thought process is. The brick pavers certainly denote that it's not a street, for most people, but who knows why these commercial vehicles are even turning around in there. Is your address clearly marked on the road?
The address is currently on the mailbox.
Okay, that's it. Okay.
So this would give us an opportunity to either keep the gate open if we expect deliveries, keep it closed if the kids are playing in the front yard.
Right.
And we would also be adding the vegetation in order to beautify the front of the house.
Do you intend to extend that 5-foot hedge beyond what's shown on?
Beyond the 12 feet that's listed?
Yes, 12.6, yep.
So I'll tell you, if it means getting approval, then I would do it. If you want it limited to the 12 feet, then let me know.
I have no preference, I was just curious.
Yeah, I mean, so Jacob is here, he would tell you whatever it takes in order to beautify the house, that's what we plan on doing.
And are there any other gates on any of the other properties on Barton?
Yeah, the house at 311 Barden, which is just maybe 5 houses down, has a gate. There is a gate 4 houses north. 1450 Vaughn Road has a gate. I think there's one other, but I don't have that. But there's at least 2 gates within 5 houses of me.
What will the mechanism be to open and close the gate?
So that's a great question. So there's 2 ways that we can operate the gate. One is with the one that I'm leaning toward is for Control 4. Like right now, our alarm system for the house and the home automation is on Control 4, and there's a Control 4 unit that we can place there to essentially remote open plus with the intercom. Not cheap. And then there's a commercial company that can do the same thing, but it doesn't connect with Control 4. So I'm leaning toward the Control 4 app.
Will they swing open? Will they slide open?
They would swing open this way into the house rather than swing into the car.
And would you have a little control outside?
Yeah.
The little box?
Yeah, there would be an intercom, and so that somebody could, ring the house. The nice thing about using the Control 4 app is that if they ring the house and nobody's home, it'll ring my phone. And if I don't pick up within 2 rings, it'll ring my wife.
Do you have any photos of the site on your iPhone or whatever? Or,
The photos of the house?
no, I mean, if someone calls you, can you see who's approaching the
Yes,
gate?
so we have, the what's not on here, because this is just for, zoning for the gate, is that there would be a camera also at the gate. So there's already electrical lines that are previously there and a low voltage line, and all they have to do is run a low voltage to add a camera.
Thank you.
Yep.
What material do you plan on using for the gravel? Crushed,
It could be whatever is required. If it is crushed granite, we would use crushed granite. If it's brick paver, we have extra brick paver, I'll brick paver it.
Okay.
The police called your house for any break-ins or anything like that since you've lived there?
So there's a kind of like a detailed answer to that. So we haven't had we haven't called, but for some reason, the dispatch at the local police gets a number that calls, they think it's our house. So we get the police that will come there periodically. We've told them we don't have a landline at the house, we just have a phone. We know a lot of the police officers because they'll stop by and say hello. We've had a deer on the property that have died and they've come, so we know them. So we haven't had anybody needing to come to the house, but we don't mind giving the code to the police. We could even put a knock box there too. So that's not an issue.
there any other questions or comments from the community? Please.
So my name is Jana, and I'm Steve's wife. And so I've been nagging my husband for about a year and a half because of the gate. And Giffords, thank you so much. I've not seen these because I haven't asked to. They're lovely. I'm frankly indifferent about the aesthetics as much as I am the safety of my kids. They've been outside playing sidewalk chalk. We've got a badminton net. We've got a volleyball net that we move around. Soccer, whatever. We play outside. They play outside a lot. And I have 4 kids actually. My older 2, I'm okay letting, ride around the neighborhood, but I can't let my little ones yet ride around the neighborhood. And so the reason, what attracted us to this house is I am fiercely protective of the kids, as I'm sure all parents are. And there are no sidewalks. So I was okay with the purchase of this house because of the front driveway, so they could ride as much as they wanted. And as you saw, it actually, their friends would come over and they would ride. We've been, and I have been with them numerous times where people will randomly pull into our driveway. And I think what shocked me was the boldness. It isn't just pulling into that front section of the driveway. They have fully circled and stopped. We have glass doors. And so, especially in the winter, you can see right into our house. They have stopped. I've documented some of the dates and the cars that have pulled in. There's a white sedan that has come. It's probably not the same one, but I just remember seeing a white sedan stops in front of our driveway. So my little ones were playing sidewalk chalk over the summer, and they know now. They're trained. Run inside when a car pulls in. I don't care if it's an Amazon truck. I'm indifferent about what the car is. Just run inside and grab us. Now we don't let them out unless you're outside washing your car, or I'm outside, or their older siblings are outside with them. So for me, it's the safety of my kids that I'm concerned about. I am a little bit surprised that there's even that much activity on Barton. I've noticed that when there's road construction in other areas, people will cut through Vaughan, they'll circle around Barton, they'll come out on Beaufort. I mean, so whenever there's any type of road construction, there seems to be more congestion than on Long Lake, Vaughan, Barton. So I just, for us, it's really the safety of my kids that I'm concerned about. And so I would ask you to please make an exception and allow us to put up the gate.
Any other discussion? You happy to entertain a motion?
Well, I have some comments. I mean, it seems to me, obviously, we're all concerned about our kids, and particularly those adorable young daughters you have there. Everyone wants to keep your kids safe. But the city, as far as I'm informed, we don't want to be a gated community. And the ordinance was carefully drafted to carve out Long Lake, Lasser, and Horton as those exceptions, because those are busy streets. And there are multiple examples of vehicles turning around from those streets into private property. And so in that circumstance, gates are deemed to be appropriate. Otherwise, we have to make a judgment call on where they are or are not appropriate. And it seems to me that the proposed plan here would, I mean, the gravel turnoff might eliminate those vehicles with trailers that needed to turn around. With a gate there, they wouldn't be able to do that. I don't know. I can't support this application because it just doesn't, to me, indicate the circumstances that would support a deviation that is not owner-created in a circumstance that is so unique that would support a deviation from our existing ordinances.
Any other discussion? Would you like to make any comments?
I appreciate that comment. And so that's the turnaround of vehicles with a trailer is exactly what I'm trying to eliminate happening in my yard, in my front yard. You know, so
But you're putting a gate there, but then you're also creating this turnoff. So, I mean, yes, it would be useful for a car, as you identified in your schematic, but I don't know how a trailer would take advantage of that.
So,
And I think you could also accomplish that same circumstance without a gate. Just if you created that gravel area, thereby with your plantings and the landscaping that you want to do to constrict down your property and make sure that it's obviously private, but yet maintain that area to allow a vehicle, if you wanted to take advantage of that, to enter it and back their trailer in there, turn it around.
so my response to that would be the turnaround area is required with the gate. We would put it in there so that people can turn around if need be. What you're recommending would be allow trucks or vehicles with trailers to turn around in my courtyard, which is exactly what I'm trying to eliminate because it's a safety issue and you wouldn't want that in your front yard.
That's exactly not what I said. With that turnoff area made available, to me, that might incentivize somebody that needs to turn around and wants to take advantage of that area to turn around, to not come into your courtyard, but rather to take advantage of that cutoff, that turnoff that you've provided, use that, not come into your property, and then go on their way. I'm not this is your application, and I'm just commenting.
So if you have, I would be open to listening to a suggestion that includes us retaining the gate and doing something with the turnaround. But the goal is to get the gate approved for the safety of my children.
I understand.
Mr. Chairman, is it possible to mandate pillars or ask them, have them put up the pillars and the landscaping and the turnaround, but no gate? And that would tell people that this is a private residence and there's a turnaround right there. Is this a measure to come halfway?
So that would include signage? I
Yes.
presume?
Yes.
This is a residential property, no one admitted without,
Well, no, not necessarily any signage, just the address on there. That's what I meant by signage. And 2 pillars and the hedges as they were going to do it, and that turnaround. And I would bet that would eliminate a good number, if not all, the people that driving up there on
would
there.
our city attorney like to make any comments?
Yes, to answer the question, that's not something that the ZBA can mandate.
Right.
The applicant
No,
does.
as a
But that
suggestion.
certainly, it's my understanding and, of the ordinance that the pillars are permitted and the landscaping would be permitted, subject to
Right.
landscaping restrictions and the like. The only thing that brings it before this board is the gate question. And the gate is, as your fellow board member indicated, gates are restricted to 3 specific streets. If the board were to approve this gate, it needs to find that the property itself meets certain criteria. I know I don't need to tell the board this, but you must find all 5 of the criteria for practical difficulty are present on the property itself. The property is so unique, or there is circumstances that are unreasonable on the property that would necessitate a deviation from the ordinance. But it is my understanding that the columns and the landscaping that you've pointed out are not, would not be subject to, would be permitted without a variance.
But we haven't made a motion yet, so we're ready to hear a motion.
If there's no more discussion, then I would,
I'm Jacob Mansour with Tribe Landscaping. I'm a design and build landscape company. I do a lot the ordinance clearly states that those 3 roads are allowed to have one. I know of 3 gates on Vaughn Road. I was in the meeting for the 1450 to get approved for a gate, and the same circumstances were used at that meeting as to this one. I'm familiar with both properties, and happily, those owners are putting a gate next year. I'm actually doing it for them. There's one 5 houses down from Barton that was a new construction home that has one. There's one on Vaughn, on Losser that has one. I mean, a lot of people have one and it keeps circling back to that same reason. So I don't see why this property at 246 would be different. It has an extremely wide frontage and it's close to the border of Vaughn, Long Lake, and Barton. So a lot of cars are going through there. It's also close to Guilford and Vaughn. And Vaughn, obviously now being paved, is a major thoroughfare, and a lot of cars go that way. So I just see the reasons. I don't understand why another property for that same reason was denied or accepted, and this one's kind of being denied.
Thank you. Please.
I'll make a comment. So regarding the gravel, it's actually had the opposite effect. So we've had that gravel in there since the summer, and what people have done is driven past the gravel, still turned around in our driveway. So at the end of April, beginning of May, a man walked up to our front porch. June 16th in the early evening, the white sedan pulled all the way into our driveway, stopped at the front door, and then exited. On July 1st, a dark sedan pulled into our driveway while we were playing badminton. On July 21st, a different white car also circled into our driveway. On August 18th, it was a van. On October 6th in the evening, it was another car. December 19th, 2 tween boys pulled up into our front porch. So the gravel driveway isn't helping anybody turn around. They're still pulling all the way into our courtyard and stopping and leaving. So it's very clearly a home. We've got the trees lining the front driveway. They're lit. There's no question. There are 2 mailboxes right in front of our house. So it's very clearly a residential property. Everything on that street, as you know, is a residential property. There's no mistaking it for anything else. This is just people being bold, and it's making us very uncomfortable.
If you don't mind, I'd like to add one more thing. Mr. Burley, I think what you mentioned, kind of like, I could understand your perspective. You were saying you're trying to avoid a gated community. I would, and I'm not quite sure if I could find the, let's see if I can, wrong way. Let's see if I can go back the other way. There are almost no houses with that, like we have over 300 feet between our front door and the street. And the houses across the street on the east side don't have enough room to do a gate. So I don't think there's a concern with our neighbors saying, oh, the 246 Barton has a gate, we want a gate, because they don't have the land to do it. So I don't think there's a risk of everybody wanting a gate, because we have like the largest piece of land in that area. And then the house, well, this is not a great map, but literally the house that also has a gate on Barton is literally 4 houses south of me.
So further away from Vaughn?
It is, yeah, it's further away from Vaughn. So this is, so 1, 2, 3, it's like right here. The other house, 311 Barton, that's 311 Barton, I'm 246 Barton. 311 Barton.
311, the one with the super long driveway?
Super long driveway.
That goes, the house is
Yeah.
way far back?
Yeah.
That's
That's right. It's like right,
different.
it's like right here. Yeah. That's the other one.
Eric, do you want to make any further comments?
I have no further comments.
I just have a question for the attorney. So in order for us to approve this request, all 5 of those conditions you mentioned need to be met, is that correct?
Yes, the board must find that the conditions of the property are such that it fulfills the dimensional variance requirement of practical difficulty. In order to find practical difficulty, all 5 of the criteria must be met. You cannot pick and choose. If one is not present, the applicant has not demonstrated practical difficulty. I will also mention, for the benefit of the board, that when petitions are heard before the Zoning Board of Appeals, that petition is individualized. meaning that the individual circumstances on that particular property may meet practical difficulty, where the circumstances on another property may not. So just because there are gates which exist for other properties does not mean that and the board may have granted those, does not therefore obligate the board to grant all future requests.
All right, thank you. I've got a motion. I move to deny the request for this dimensional variance because the applicant has failed to establish practical difficulty for the following reasons. Number one, strict compliance with the ordinance requirements would not unreasonably prevent the owner from improving their property. The city's master plan contemplates driveway gates specifically and notes that they can alter the feel of a residential street, and such gated driveways should be generally avoided. Such gates may be along Long Lake Road, Corton Road, or Lasher roads, as the city has determined that those roads are major thoroughfares. The applicant has not demonstrated why the city's position on this issue unreasonably prevents the property owner from improving their property. Number two, a variance would not do substantial justice to the applicant and to other property owners. The city of Bloomfield Hills discourages driveway gates except in extremely particular circumstances, which are not present here. Number three, there are no unique circumstances on this property. Safety concerns regarding traffic are not particular to this property. Number four, the applicant's problem is self-created. Lastly, number five, the granting of the variances will adversely affect the purposes or objectives of the master plan, as the goal of the master plan is to bring properties into compliance with the ordinance. The master plan also discourages driveway gates.
Thank you. Is there support? Support?
I'll support.
Yes.
Any further discussion? If not, those in favor of the motion to deny the variance, please raise your right hand. Those opposed?
No.
Thank you. I'm sorry to say, but motion to approve did not pass, and therefore it's denied. Thank you for participating in this.
If you may, what is the appeal through, the appeal right through after this?
We're not in a position to give you legal advice. You can request.
I can reach out to you.
Certainly after the meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll resume our meeting for consideration of the request from the property owner at 1177 Eaton Cross for a variance to allow a 6-foot-high fence in lieu of the ordinance requiring a 3-foot-high fence around a sports court.
Yes, sir. Next on the agenda is the property at 1177 Eaton Cross Road. This and the next agenda item are next-door neighbors, so they're two properties adjacent to one another, currently under development from last year when receiving building permits. So the subject site is located, as you can see, kind of sandwiched between Trowbridge Road to the west and Eaton Cross to the east, northeast. The zoning district is A1 residential. As I mentioned, there is a home that's currently under construction on the property, and so the applicant had submitted an application for some amenity items. Unfortunately, in this particular case, the lot is unique in the sense that it has 2 front yards. So wherever there's a street, public or private, that portion of the yard is automatically designated as front yard. So the address is Eaton Cross. So as you can see here, the driveway takes access from Eaton Cross to the front of the home from the front yard. And so because Trowbridge Road is abutting the property to the west, that makes what otherwise would be a rear yard a front yard. So the ordinance does address situations like this. It refers to these types of lots as through lots. And And so when we met with the applicant on this particular application and the next door property, it was found that what was being proposed was striving to meet the standards for rear yard. So in the ordinance, the dimensional standards, establish for proposing accessory structures in a rear yard as well as any other yard. So if they were located in the side yard, there's certain standards for that in terms of setbacks and whatnot. So what I'm trying to say is that what's being proposed in the front yard is with the intent of it being in a rear yard had Trowbridge Road not been there. So looking at the dimensional standards, we found that because of the location in the front yard, there are certain circumstances with the sport court itself. The sport court fence touches upon the front and side yards, and then the location of a proposed pool cabana. Those all require approval from the Planning Commission, which occurred last week. The Planning Commission did approve those items, subject to the consideration of the ZBA today for the height of the sport court fence. I also wanted to mention another detail that's unique to this property is the criteria for which the Planning Commission can consider approving the accessory structures, that being the pool, the sport court, the pool cabana, and the pool itself in the front yard. The main one highlighted in pink here says that placement in the front yard shall be permitted only where the front yard is at least 3 times greater in depth than the minimum setback requirement. So it occurs every now and then when the front yard that we're dealing with does not have a depth that is 3 times its setback. And so as you can see here, the setback off of Trowbridge Road is 65 feet. So 3 times that is 195 feet. And it just so happens that the depth of this particular front yard is 209 feet. So therefore, the Planning Commission was able to take all of those instances into consideration when approving or considering approval of the accessory structures. So there is no additional variance for a front yard depth that's less than 3 times the setback here. But I just wanted to throw that screen up to show and demonstrate that that is something that is taken into consideration when we review these types of things. So, so again, it's the height of the sport court fence, which again, sport court fence required Planning Commission approval for its location in the front yard, the secondary front yard, as we like to call it. What's required by ordinance when it's an enclosed type of, or I'm sorry, a closed style fence, meaning it's not transparent. It's a mesh material that is more of a closed type construction. Those are limited, just like walls, to 3 feet. So again, when you apply the rear yard standards or spirit of the ordinance, you can have a fence up to 6 feet in height in a rear yard. So the 6 feet that's proposed is in keeping with the spirit of the ordinance for a rear yard, but technically because it's the front yard is the reason why it's before you today to ask for relief from that. So as I mentioned, it's a 6 foot tall black mesh sport court fence, 6 feet in height. That's everything encircled in pink here. So this is the sport court, and then the fence surrounding it will be a 6 foot mesh fence. Just for your information, the Planning Commission approved a pool fence that's shown outlined in blue. Again, it's primarily in the front yard, and then a small portion of it ties into the house here in the side yard. And then again, this is the landscape screening plan. There was a homeowner to the south that voiced some concern at the Planning Commission about screening from views from their house to the south. And so the Planning Commission had indicated that the city administration would work with the applicant to ensure that upon final completion and inspection, that all areas surrounding the development would be adequately landscape screened from views from the outside. This area here, shown in this rectangle, is this type of vegetation here, a maidenhair grass with some trees planted inside to help with views from the south. And then as you can see, there's some immediate screening along the Trowbridge side of the sport court. That's a 6 foot high cedar hedge, so it meets the height of the proposed fence. And then you have some larger spruce mix in this area facing north. and then a viburnum mix with some evergreen and cedar hedge in that location as well. So the applicant did take good care in addressing the landscape screening for this location on the property. A view from Trowbridge taken from Google Street View. These are the existing mature trees shown along the edge of the road. And then as you can see, there's some contour lines here, which indicates a change in elevation. So this is approximately 129 feet from the property line of Trowbridge to where the fence will be located. So if you can imagine 129 feet back from Trowbridge. So there's a good significant distance as well as a change in elevation that'll help with the natural screening of the proposed items. And so then lastly, there's just a few color renderings which help give a perspective of what's being proposed. Again, the house is under construction, and then this is the pool house, all within the front yard. This is the pool fence, and as you can see, it's screened with immediate screening for a landscape hedge. And then a view looking directly at the house from the Trowbridge perspective, obviously much closer. And then the sport court with the 6-foot fence that's under consideration is to the left behind the pool house, shown here. And again, if you think of the spirit of the ordinance in a rear yard, this, if it was a rear yard, would be in compliance with the ordinance at 6 feet in height. And then taking into consideration the immediate screening and then screening beyond the proposed fence. This is that property, the neighboring property, which is under common ownership. I believe it's the parents located here, and then the subject site is the children, or one of the children of the parents. So they're both under construction at the same time, but this image here shows the required separation or buffering of landscaping between the two properties. So again, looking at an aerial, here's Trowbridge, here's the proposed sport court with the sport court fence, and again, it's the height dimension that's under your consideration today.
Eric, would it matter, so if it was a rear yard, 6 feet wouldn't be an issue, right?
Correct, it would not be an issue.
Does the black mesh make a difference? I thought you made a remark earlier that the black mesh somehow affected the 3 foot to 6 foot.
So the ordinance has, it explains the different types of fences. So you can have a closed construction fence, which we typically think of as like a wall, the transparency consideration, or an open type fence, which is like the chain link or the metal rungs. That would be more of an open construction fence. So that would be my main reason for saying they're different, is because the rungs is more of an open construction, whereas the tight mesh with more of an opaque.
But the black mesh isn't an issue in this analysis here?
No,
You said loose mesh, would that be an open?
I guess we would have to check and see and to make a determination if there's a, one way or the other.
Is the porosity or the visibility, what is the concept we're tapping into?
So the height of the fence, it's the limitation. So if it was a metal rung fence that was surrounding the sport court, it would be allowed to be up to 4 feet in height, just like a pool fence would be. But because it's considered a closed fence, closed construction fence, it's limited to 3 feet. So it would either be before you as an allowance of 4 feet or 3 feet. But
So is the variance, is there two? Is it a black closed, mesh and 6 feet in the front yard?
no, it's just the height. So it would be a 6 foot height in lieu of the 3 foot height. Yes.
Is there an intention with the sports court to use it as a pickleball court?
We did cover that at Planning Commission, and the answer is no. It would be just for tennis, I believe, and basketball.
So is that something that we could add into it as a requirement?
Yes, and I believe the applicant's here and may be able to explain a little bit more with their client about the intent behind that, but it would certainly be something, I believe, could be considered in a
Would you like
condition.
to speak? Please identify yourself.
Well,
My
Eric,
name is Sabrina Brown, I'm with Georgia Design. To clarify, I think, and Eric, please correct me if I'm wrong, because it's in the front or, I'm gonna say a side yard,
That's correct, yes. If it was rear yard,
Regardless of whether it's black mesh or, okay.
right, because if you had a wooden fence in the rear yard, like at the perimeter, that would be considered a closed construction fence, closed type.
If you
Um,
can't put your hand through it.
Right,
Is my thought.
But
Sure.
black mesh, you can put your hand through it?
No, so the black mesh, you can't put your hand through it. It's so what the black mesh fencing is essentially ball stop fencing. Within that space, it's basically, the minimum height that we can go that for tennis or basketball, that the balls aren't flying all over the place and they're actually being caught. If you did go lower than that, it would cause more balls to go flying out, which obviously is not ideal. Ideal when we're wanting to contain it and also kind of visually screen it from the kind of the family neighbor up top, Trowbridge, and then as Eric mentioned, we're working with the client or the homeowner to the south to ensure that property line is also screened from view. But yeah, it is basically a mesh. It's kind of like a screen on a window, so you can see through it. But it is a black meshing that your hand cannot stick like through. But it is, I guess, solid to the point that you can't stick your hand through, but you can see through it. If that helps clarify.
Yeah, I don't make an issue about this because I don't really care, but I thought that you were making a distinction with the 3-foot, solid black, versus 6.
no, it's just to give you the material type and the characteristic of it, and the fact that the ordinance does distinguish between open construction and closed construction. So because it's opaque, we consider that closed construction, so that limits it to 3 feet in height, just like a wall or a wooden fence around the perimeter of a property. So if Trowbridge Road wasn't here, this would be acceptable and allowed as part of
So
a
how come there's not
permit.
How come there's not a variance request for that?
Which part?
The 3-foot limitation, because if I'm not, maybe I'm not following you here, but
Sorry.
it feels like in this area, it ought to be limited to 3 feet, and the proposal is 6 feet.
So,
Again, I don't particularly care. It's just if we're gonna make sure that we're identifying all the topics and maybe do a verbal
Yeah.
modification of its application, let's do it now, but
so if this was proposed as a 3-foot fence, it would be permissible with planning commission approval in the front yard, I believe. But because it's going over 3 feet in height, it's that height dimension that's going above and beyond what would be allowed per planning commission approval for a front yard fence, opaque fence, which is limited to 3 feet as opposed to the typical 4 that we usually see, because usually they're an open type construction. So the variance on page 1 is the dimensional variance that's being requested. To
yeah,
be,
and I realize the planning commission approved this structure in a front yard, but, and again, I don't wanna belabor this, but, wouldn't it be a variance of the ordinance limitation at 3 feet of a non-opaque fence in the front yard?
Mhm.
But we don't have that before us.
I'm sorry, I'm not following that part.
Is there a part of this variance application, a request to construct a 6-foot black mesh in a area that would typically and only approves a 3-foot black mesh sport fence?
Yes, the only item before the board is the height request. So the variance being requested, and the only thing the board needs to consider is the height of the fence. So you would approve a 6-foot rather than a 3-foot.
And the fact that it's opaque or not opaque doesn't make a difference.
The fact, it does not require a variance.
Okay?
And this
That's the
is-
question.
It's just that,
Checking also, it's only because this is a front yard.
Correct. The only reason this is before the board is because it is technically in a front yard. And the
Okay.
only thing that requires a variance is the height.
Okay, and the opaque versus non-opaque doesn't make a
It
difference.
is not to this board, does not need to be considered by this board. It is a definition in the ordinance. It does not require a variance. It is just a detail.
And it may in the sense when you consider the degree of variance. So if it was an open type fence, that would be allowed to be 4 feet in height, which the degree of variance would then be 2 feet as opposed to 3 feet.
But we're not, city attorney is telling us we don't need to consider that.
Correct, yeah.
It does not require a variance.
Okay. And then, from an aesthetic point of view, will the neighbors be able to see the fence, as best we know?
What was discussed at Planning Commission is that, and the applicant can affirm this too, that the intention all along is to screen everything, so it can't be seen from not only the street along Trowbridge, but also the 2 adjoining properties or adjacent properties. Again, I mentioned the property to the north is under common ownership, that being within the same family. But it was the property to the south where the homeowner came and spoke.
But common ownership is not really relevant to us.
It's not, no.
Because the
It could sell
property may,
tomorrow.
in the future, be owned by someone else.
Correct, yes.
And even divided.
So the whole intent is to coordinate with the city moving forward. The belief is that there is adequate landscape screening, but with the awareness of the property owner that came to speak with concerns, that there'd be a coordinated effort along that process, that once they get to final inspection, that it's satisfactory to not only the ordinance in screening, but to the property owner that would be looking into the property.
But that again is to the south, so
Yeah.
it's literally the opposite side of the property from where the sports court is.
Yes,
The
and
sports court is more concerned about the one on the north.
yes, correct. And Sabrina can speak more to that. But Matt Mosher was here with the Planning Commission meeting and explained that it's their full intent to screen there as well, despite the fact that it might be common ownership at the current time.
And he did mention to me that he was going to be meeting with the neighbors during that point in time and physically flag the trees to ensure that every view is screened, just because not only do the homeowners of this property want their privacy, but they also want to be respectful of all the neighbors kind of coming into the neighborhood.
And can you also address this issue about the pickleball, because that changes the dynamics of any fence?
We, as far as we have been made aware, it will be tennis and basketball, as Eric mentioned from the planning commission meeting.
Is it?
9 and 10.
Sorry, go ahead, Larry.
No, so they wouldn't have any problem if the proposal was amended to restrict their use of pickleball without other approval?
Yeah, I mean, if that was something that had to be made aware, I'm not sure.
The board is able, if that is a relevant fact and it was brought up at Planning Commission, it is part of the board's packet and the board can find that that is a fact that weighs one way or another on
Well,
the question of practical difficulty.
Yeah, subject to being corrected by the city clerk. I don't recall, I was on the planning commission matter when that was discussed. And the pickleball issue was not brought up. There was discussion about basketball, tennis, and court games, but nothing about pickleball.
Then
So if there's nothing about pickleball at planning, does that render the ZBA incapable of adding that caveat as a restriction for approval here?
I would not, it is not a fact, yes. It is not a fact that was considered by the planning commission. It is, unless the absence of that discussion is relevant to the height of the fence, which is the variance before the board, I would not recommend adding that as a condition.
Is that called viewpoint discrimination?
I would not opine on the record about that in particular.
Thanks. I think we're ready unless there's more comments.
I mean, I think we've covered everything. Obviously, this is a very unique property that we are very limited in what we can do, but we've made sure to be as respectful to the neighborhood, the neighbors, the public by kind of keeping everything
question for the attorney. Does the city have any specific ordinances relating to pickleball courts?
Off the top of my head, I don't believe so. That being said, the concerns regarding noise have been brought up, I believe, both at Planning Commission and at this board. And there have been times where that has been a representation that is part of the record. So an applicant, for example, has represented as part of their application that it will not be used as a pickleball court, and therefore that discussion has been had at Planning Commission and the ZBA and is part of the approval process.
So what if once everything is completed, they decide they do want to play pickleball? What is the path?
There is nothing in the township ordinances at this time that would prevent that from happening. Again, it is not, the question before the board is the height of the fence and whether it's reasonable. And the pickleball discussion was not part of the underlying record.
Ready for a motion,
What
please?
about-
Okay. Would you like to comment?
You're here.
I have slides too.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Leah Michaels with HRC, city engineer. There were a couple things before Planning Commission that were related to engineering. There was a grading approval. There was an area of cuts up to 3 feet that were approved by Planning Commission. So just to point that out, and part of the discussion at Planning Commission was accommodating drainage. So the applicant is proposing some leaching basins, the 2 highlighted in yellow, as well as a swale. So that is something we looked for in our engineering review, not necessarily related to the height of the fence, but kind of overall to the site plan and some of the improvements they're making.
Thank you, Leah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
I move to approve a variance from section 24-242B3B and 24-196 to allow for a 6-foot-high fence in lieu of the ordinance required 3-foot-high fence around the sports court. The applicant has demonstrated practical difficulty for the following reasons. 1, strict compliance with the requirements would unreasonably prevent or severely limit the owner from improving the property as the subject parcel is encumbered by 2 front yards, 2 side yards, and no rear yard. This means that the homeowner is subject to restrictive front yard setback requirements when attempting to improve on their property by adding a pool, cabana, and sports court. Applying these more restrictive standards would be unreasonable in this case. 2, the requested variances would do substantial justice to the property owner as well as other property owners. The homeowner's planned improvements, including the sports court fence, are in line with improvements made by other property owners in the neighborhood. The property owner has submitted a landscaping plan that shows existing tree coverage along Trowbridge Road and additional green cedar hedges, spruce trees, and cedar trees to hide the sports court fence from the street or from neighboring properties. 3, the plight of the property owner is due to the uniqueness of the property. The lot is unique in that it has no backyard, and the homeowner must attempt to comply with restricted front and side yard setbacks while trying to improve on their property. 4, the proponent's problem is not self-created, as the fact that the lot has no backyard makes it inherently difficult to improve upon. And 5, the granting of the variances will not adversely affect the purposes or objectives of the master plan. The purpose of the master plan in residential areas is to allow homeowners the opportunity to improve the property while minimizing impact on the neighbors.
Thank you. Is there support?
Yes.
Support?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Not those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we'll move to consideration of the request from the property owner at 1185 Eaton Cross for a variance to allow mechanical and pool equipment in the non-required front yard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to mention that for this next item, I'm going to introduce to the podium my colleague Ian Hogue. Ian has been with Giffords Webster for a little over a year now, working on Bloomfield Hills projects, meeting with applicants, fielding inquiries and whatnot. So after this full year of involvement and getting to learn the ordinance, we'd like to have him at the podium today. He did present this item to the Planning Commission last week and did very well, so I'm confident to pass this one to Ian, and you'd likely be seeing more of Ian at the podium going forward.
Thank
So,
you, Eric,
thank
and
you.
welcome.
Thank you, everyone. Like Eric said, my name is Ian Hogue. I'm with Giffords Webster. I'll be going through today's presentation for 1185 Eaton Cross. The request before you is for front yard mechanical equipment. So this subject site is zoned A1 residential. As you can see, there's quite a unique lot shape, I believe. Sabrina, you could correct me, but I think these were all one big parcel, and then over time they became a lot split. And yeah, and so this current parcel right here, I believe, is vacant. And then the previous proposal was here, so now we're talking about this project. Like Eric said earlier, the home is currently getting constructed. It was approved last year, and they came back for some site amenities, a pool, a pergola, and a pool fence. And a part of that process, they needed to find a location for their pool equipment. So the aerial here, you can see
Eric,
the,
I mean, Ian,
yeah.
I'm sorry, can I catch up?
Yeah.
Can you go back? So
Yeah.
that deed strip, going up to Eden Cross, do you know what that's for?
I don't know. I don't know if there's an easement there, and when the lot split occurred, why it happened that way. It just, I think
I
it
mean,
just.
does that affect open space calculations?
So that little tiny strip would be included in the open space calculations, and you'll see once we get to the yard map, it does add an additional front yard location. So I think we can kind of just jump to that. So that tiny strip, like you pointed out, does extend all the way to Eden Cross, which is over here. And when you take that property line and take it back when we do the yard maps, it does add a front yard location here. If that didn't exist or it didn't extend all the way to Eden Cross, it would be considered a side yard. But just due to that unique kind of parcel layout and connection, it is technically a front yard per the ordinance. In addition,
How wide is that?
say it again?
How wide is that strip?
I don't
Is it
know.
like 10 feet or?
10, maybe 15, 20 feet. Nothing.
So enough for a driveway at least.
Potentially, I believe. But the previous home, I believe, had a similar layout and construction. So I think they kind of emulated that with this new driveway that they proposed.
Oh, this was a tear down. Then.
Yeah, it was a tear down,
Okay.
and the new home was approved last year, and then the home got approved, and then they came back a few months ago for the different site amenities. And with that, they needed a location for their mechanical equipment, which technically would be in the side yard, but due to that connection to Eaton Cross, it has become a front yard. So that's why they're before you today. Planning Commission did approve the pool, side yard pergola, and the pool fence. And again, here are the mechanical equipment which do fall within the front yard. And per the ordinance, mechanical equipment are allowed in the non-required rear yard and side yard. But due to the location and the layout of the yard map, it's in a front yard, which requires ZBA approval.
Is that vacant lot a buildable lot?
I believe so. It is, but like you said, it is currently vacant. So one day, I think we actually have. So here, just giving you dimensions. So when you apply that front yard setback of 65 feet, the pool equipment have an additional about 30 feet from that 65 feet. So they're about 90 feet off that property line. So they would meet that setback. And let's say that parcel was developed, it would not be, right up against that property neighbor or potentially a new house there.
If that was side yard, what would just out of curiosity, what would the distance requirements be permitted?
If it was side yard, all mechanical equipment have to be within 5 feet of the main building or an accessory building. There is no, it just has to be out of the required setback. So I think A1 is 38 feet. So again, it's an additional 60 or so feet away from that side yard, required side yard requirement.
Is that enclosed, the equipment itself? Or
The,
is that just with a little hedge?
so that is, I have a landscape markup. So that's just a 5-foot cedar hedge, which is required from the ordinance to be screened a foot taller than the mechanical units. So that meets that requirement. And if this was a side yard requirement or side yard location, it would just be subject to review from the building official rather than ZBA because, and we're here to add ZBA because of the front yard location. So it would meet, if it was a side yard, it would meet those required standards. And then just going through briefly here, just some, applicant provided some renderings, but also this is a street view from this year, I believe it was April, just kind of showing, this is on Trowbridge Road, looking into the property, looking northeast, so you can see the new home being built there. And just going through the different amenities, this is the pergola that was approved by Planning Commission. And this is along Eaton Cross, looking into the front of the home. The mechanical equipment would be on this side of the home. There's additional screening along Eaton Cross, and also there's existing coverage along Trowbridge and Eaton Cross as well to aid in screening. Here's a look at the pool and pergola that was approved. The mechanical units would be located right about here. Just another rendering. Sabrina might speak to this. I don't think it made the rendering, which happens sometimes, I think, but this is where they would be located. And again, there'd be a 5-foot cedar hedge, evergreen screening around those mechanical equipment.
So this is pool equipment and air conditioners, a generator. What else am I missing?
I think that's it.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay.
Just more of an aerial view. And then this is the previous parcel that we were looking at, the property, the application. And this just kind of shows that screening area. Again, it would be located on this side of the home.
Oh, this is the neighbor.
Yeah, this is the neighbor to the south.
Okay.
Kind of just helps show the screening from the two parcels. I think that's it for planning perspective. Leah, I don't know if you have anything else to add. If you're here, right?
Oh, well, we didn't have any other approvals for engineering, but just to point to some of the drainage improvements that they will be adding are some leaching basins in the rear, in the front, and then a swale that connects them together. So we do feel they accommodate some drainage improvements with their pool and area in the rear yard.
So the vacant property now, that's at a higher elevation?
Up here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or is that generally level?
These are the contour lines, so I believe this is higher and this is lower. I'll have to zoom in. Let's see. 884 to 831. Yes, this is higher up here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Any other comments? I think we're ready for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a move to approve the variance for this property. You ready? Okay. Proposed motion regarding 1185 Eaton Cross Road. I move to approve a variance from section 24-229B, 11B, and D to allow pool and mechanical equipment to be placed in the front yard. The applicant has demonstrated practical difficulty for the following reasons. 1, strict compliance with the requirements would unreasonably prevent or severely limit the owner from improving the property. The lot in question has 3 front yards and 1 side yard. Under the ordinance, pool and mechanical equipment must be located in the rear yard. The lot does not have a rear yard, rendering strict compliance with the ordinance unreasonable in this instance. 2, the requested variance would do substantial justice to the property owner as well as other property owners. The improvements that the homeowner seeks are standard with other properties in the area. Further, the homeowner plans to screen the mechanical and pool equipment so that the structures are not visible from the street or from neighboring properties. 3, the plight of the property owner is due to the uniqueness of the property. Pool equipment and mechanical equipment are required to be placed in the rear yard. The property does not have a rear yard. An exemption is appropriate in this case. 4, the proponent's problem is not self-created. The configuration of the property is not within the homeowner's control. 5, the granting of this variance, of the variances, will not adversely affect the purpose or objectives of the master plan. The purpose of the master plan in residential areas is to allow homeowners the opportunity to improve the property while minimizing impact on the neighbors.
Thank you. Is there support?
Support.
Any further discussion? Not those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.